UFOs, Chinese spy planes, spy balloons, water balloons, whatever's in the air. These are the questions that very few people are asking. And why are they not being asked? And how it affects you and moving forward and what this means for your life going forward. I think one of the big questions is desensitization. Are we being desensitized to things being shot down over the friendly skies of North America? You know, I always hear when you get on a plane, oh, come fly the friendly skies and stuff like that. And, you know, to a large degree, North Americans have been, you know, very lucky. You know, we've been very blessed to have, you know, friendly skies. You can't say that over much of the parts of the world. And you know, this, who knows what this could be? Is this the you know, the government's trying to saber rattle and gear up for some type of thing they're going to do to each other? I mean, I saw a huge poll the other day on Iraq veteran 8888. He had a huge channel, huge followings, had hundreds of thousands of votes, I believe. And would the government shoot at its own citizens here in America? And overwhelmingly, it was yes. I mean, we're talking like 80, 90% said yes, something like that. And again, his channel is geared more towards gun enthusiasts, you know, libertarians, stuff like that. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. However, pretty telling. You know, and you know, us here, we question everything. You know, this community we're building, we question everything. And the point at the end of the day is people should not be scared of their government. Government should be scared of the people. So why has that been flipped? Why has that been turned? And that's what we're seeking here. We are seeking those answers to what is happening. And we talk about daily what is going on in clown world, right? Some people call it Moscow time. Some people call it finding the fakest news of the day, whatever it may be. Nolan Bowerley talks about it. You know, Opti and Nico on Simply Bitcoin talk about it. We have to start asking questions and finding the real answers as to what's going on. This, for instance, if you notice, these things, these spy things, these balloons, these objects are, you know, kind of in the middle of nowhere. You know, like they waited, well, this one went through the entire United States and then they shot it down over the water. This one is out over the water as well. Apparently went across the land, was in Montana, but all these other ones, you know, really desolate areas. So how do we know that they even happened, right? And these are the questions coming to a larger part of why this is important. And this is why I always talk about this: question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself, right? This is the most important aspect of what we do here, is questioning everything. And it's good to question everything. You shouldn't automatically just blindly assume everything is real, or blindly assume everything is fake either. You know, maybe this is very real. Maybe this is a very real thing. However, we have to start understanding. And the most important part before I go on a tangent is, when you have good leaders, when you have true leaders, you have small or limited government, and they do their job, which is just protecting your borders and upholding just a, you know, military to protect the people, the thing that was only set out to do, instead of trying to administer welfare and administer health care and everything in between, when it's gummed up in all these works and trying to be the charitable arm of the people and doing all these things that the government's not good at and the government shouldn't be doing. Well, then you have a lack of trust in government. And that's why we unfortunately have to question everything. We have to say, is it actually real? Did these things even happen? I wasn't in the F-22. I'm not in the recovery efforts. I have no idea. Are the pictures real? Is the video real? Are the communications real? What was reported from the pilots back to the government real? And what they're relaying to us? We have no idea. This is the Vietnam War, the false flag in Gulf Tonkin. We were told different things, and then we're off to war. And woo, we're going to war. Weapons of mass destruction. I mean, like, you can go on and on and on, right? This is the point of this. The problem is, and again, this is why we talk about this all the time. The problem is not spy balloons, spy planes, spy whatever. Like we said a million times, Clinton sold nuclear secrets 30 years ago to the Chinese. I mean, they've got so many secrets of ours that you'd fall on the floor. That's how many they have. They don't need spy balloons. They do not need them. You know, they have TikTok. They've got nuclear secrets and think they've been getting sold. You got 10% for the big guy going on. You got the people in office giving them stuff, for crying out loud. And that's just fact. We know that as fact now. Like the Twitter files, all these things have exposed all these things. All these things we've known and thought, you know what, there's a lot of smoke here. There's probably fire. Well, we found the fire. We know what's going on. This is the crux of the matter, though. And that is what it is, right? Those things have happened. That is what it is. We're not here to argue about it and say, oh, this and that, and oh my gosh. Those are facts now. So what do we do about it? The problems start, you know, years earlier. Right? The problems start way before all these things happen. It's people getting emotional. It's people doing things that are not in their best interest because they're emotional, because they're voting for someone that really doesn't have the best interest at their heart, which, government's not there to have your best interests for you necessarily, right? This is why they're limited. That's why the Constitution and Bill of Rights limits the government, what they can do. So my question again to you is, the biggest thing is, we don't know, and it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter what's going on, because you should be able to trust your government. Like, really, I mean, brass tacks, you should be able to trust your government. We make fun of the government here all the time, and we need the Constitution and Bill of Rights to limit government and to keep them at bay. However, if you are a moral, a just people, as our founding fathers talked about all the time, if you're moral and you're just and you uphold a higher standard that only the wise can repair, uphold the standard that the wise can repair, then we don't have to actually worry about a lot of these things. We can trust the government. We can actually trust the people that are there to actually serve. They're not there to be career politicians. They're not there to be Joe Biden, be there for 47 years before he got elected president. That's how did you enter office as a nobody, and then now you're worth millions of dollars? That doesn't even make sense. How would Nancy Pelosi doubling your wealth like every 4 years? It doesn't even make sense, right? Dan Crenshaw has said some really weird things about being there just to make money, and it's both sides, unfortunately. So that's the problem. It's both sides are unable to trust what's going on. And when you, like we said, you put your communist or collectivist glasses on, which is the plan for 100 plus years now. And again, this is not opinion. This is fact. This is scholars wrote about this in Naked Communists. This has been read into congressional record. Their plan from the communists, from the collectivists for decades and centuries was come in, infiltrate, rot America from the inside out, rot capitalism from the inside out, debauch the currency, get a central bank, progressive tax, destroy the family, get into culture, take over one of the parties, and on and on and on. Go check one of the videos we did about 8 months ago. I'll try to link it in here again, about the 45 goals. They've got about 40 of them, 35, 40 of the goals. So you can see why we're having so many problems. You can see why trust is gone from institutions. That was the other thing. Try to rattle the trust of the institutions of America and the West. Well, they've succeeded doing those things. This is why we have so many problems. This is why we are building communities and having to rebuild these things as to what's happening. And for the people that I'm an older millennial, I guess we'll say, and the Gen X and the Boomers. I've talked to many people, and they're like, "Well, I mean, it wasn't, like you're saying it's our fault." I mean, yeah, it's all of our fault. It's everyone's fault. The millennials have been able to vote for, 15, 17 years, something like that, 20 years. The Gen X and Boomers, we've been able to, you've been able to vote for decades, and the generation before that. I mean, a lot of these people that are the main voting blocks, yeah, you didn't start it. We all aided in this destruction of ourselves. So this is why, again, I don't mean to get in these tangents, and when we're talking spy balloons, but the point isn't spy balloons. And that's why I come and do these videos every day, because people want to kind of like come in and see, like, what's going on with the spy balloon? Did Captain Donald get the spy balloon with the F-22? Like, who cares? Who cares? Literally, who cares? This fourth balloon is somewhat close to my home. Do I care in the least bit that it was flying near my house? No, I don't care, because we have bigger problems. We have bigger fish to fry. What's telling is this article, and the CNN actually does a fairly good job. I mean, CNN is generally a left-leaning, or I shouldn't say left-leaning and right-leaning. We shouldn't use those terms. They're just more of a collectivist mindset and kind of a controlled puppet of the collectivists, the globalists, Klaus Schwab types. And but there's a really good article, actually. It's a solid article, and there's a couple of interesting things here. High altitude object was shot down by an F-16 over Lake Huron. The fourth one lies between Michigan and the Pentagon said the object was not assessed to be a military threat, but was a flight hazard. But it did connect the craft to a radar signal. It was over a sensitive site. So this is what's really fascinating to me. And we're going to go down to the end of the article here really quick. That we have now apparently a shoot first, investigate later mindset. Now, this has now happened multiple times, and we it's not a threat, but we're shooting it down. I mean, what if it was a guy in a balloon just on his lawn chair? Do we know? I mean, we don't even know. It hasn't been identified. What if it was an ultra MAGA guy, or what if it was an ultra Obama guy, and the government didn't like that person, and they're like, well, it's an unidentified flying object, and we had to take him out. So it was a hazard. He might have gotten away with a Cessna with a family just riding in their plane. So we had to take it out. We don't know. Again, I'm not in the F-16. I'm not in the control tower. I'm not at NORAD understanding what's going on. I don't get that information. So this is why we have to back up. You have to back up the layers and say, okay, who's in command here? Think of all these people now that are running at NORAD. They're at the military academies. They're at the whatever. They're at the schools or the colleges, institutions of higher learning that are run by people that are collectivists. They're run by people that, again, let's be honest, right? We've seen all the stats. Majority of the professors and teachers out there tend to be collectivist mentality or not liking America too much. They're not liking America's history, not liking their founding, whatever it is. And if that's the case, then you don't like America like many people do, right? Liking someone means liking their faults, unfortunately, and the good things of them, right? Because people can change. And we love someone because of who they are and what they are trying to be, and not because of saying, well, you know what, I don't like you because of the things you've done in the past. That's literally what so many people are saying. Like, you know what, I hate America. The number one, why don't you leave? Number two, there are positive ways to change things, right? We can always get better positively. We don't have to create division and polarization. So, but we also don't say, oh, you know what, I can't stand America, or I'm doing this and that because of something that happened in the past. You know what, we're all human, and all countries are made of humans, and not everyone is perfect. America has tried to be different, though. That was the difference. That was the Constitution and Bill of Rights. That was the exceptionalism that de Tocqueville talked about. That's where Nolan Bowerley, again, just talked about this the other day, was so brilliant, talking about after World War II, Truman dropped the second atomic bomb, and we had the atomic bomb, no one else did. We had all the industrial might, no one else did. Everything was bombed. America wasn't. America could have taken over the world, but they passed the test. They said, nope, we're going to rebuild everything, we're going to rebuild everyone, and they chose not to. They chose not to. That was the test. That was the test of good and evil in a way. That was God testing and saying, what are you going to do with the power I've given you? I mean, that makes me get choked up just thinking about it. That's what we're put here for, I believe, at the end of the day. It's that true test. How are you going to use the talents and the responsibility, the power I've given you? Are you going to do it for good? Or are you going to do it for bad? And America has not always been right. Absolutely not. No one is. No one's perfect. The challenge is to be better and to try to do right every time. And we're not always going to live up to that. We're not always going to be perfect. So this is really fascinating as well. The object shot down were likely the first kinetic action from NORAD and the Northern Command had taken against any airborne object over U.S. airspace. So again, first thing that comes to mind, again, is how do you know if these things are real? Is it actually good? Maybe it's good. Maybe it's a bad thing. But also, are we getting people used to unfriendly skies over North America? It's the first time, again, like 9/11, people are like, oh my gosh, this first real wake-up call to, hey, our skies might not be that friendly. Now we're having these incidents again. You know, why is this happening? Why after decades, though, are we all of a sudden just shooting UFOs down and things we don't know out of the sky? You know, why aren't we always doing this? Why are we just doing it now? Why has it been 4 times in 1 week? How come we're not identifying? That's the first rule of gun safety. Like we say, the first rule of gun safety, one of the first 4 or 5 rules is, you know, have your hand off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Safety, never point at anyone, you know, anything that you're not willing to shoot, and don't shoot until you've identified the object. Those are really the first. And the 5th rule, again, would be making sure the gun's unloaded, or, you know, when you're carrying, make sure the gun is unloaded. Those are the top 5 rules of gun safety. And again, that's a side note for a different day, is again, most people are scared of weapons because they don't even know those 5 rules. They don't know that that's what you're taught. Every single hunter, every single shooter is taught those rules. Most people aren't grown, they don't grow up around firearms, they're scared of them, unfortunately. But again, why are we having this shoot first and ask questions later mentality? Why all of a sudden this change? And at the end of the day, as Nolan Bowerley again points out, UFOs and war, especially, you know, UFOs, things like that, are generally brought up in times of trying to boost morale and distract things, you know, or preceding war. Things like that. This is unfortunately, this is again just kind of history, right? This is not kind of history. This is history. So we have to be very cognizant of that. So this is the first kinetic action. Let's see. They do appear to be trigger happy. Although this is certainly preferable to the permissive environment that they showed with the Chinese spy balloon. So it's really fascinating what's going on. Let me know your comments. I'm very curious to see what the people think about this and what you think. And I find it fascinating. I mean, it brings up 1,000 different questions, and I think at the end of the day, like I said, it to me really shows the fact that we need to be able to trust our institutions, and we don't have trust of our institutions. I will say, though, having media and decentralization of media and social media and everything we have is so good for people because they're starting to understand and see a different side of things other than the one narrative, the one megaphone being told to you to look here, and we're going to tell you how long to look at it as well, right? That's very good that we have this now. Whether things are misinformation or disinformation or real information, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. That's the beauty of what we have now, is there's not an ability to have just a crafted narrative out of the Kremlin, out of Washington, out of Beijing. It doesn't matter. Now the people are the ones that are starting to ask the questions and starting to flip the script on governments. And that genie is never going back in the bottle. That toothpaste is never going back in that tube. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and energy. It's the most important asset we have. Please let me know in your comments. I'm very fascinated to see what you think. And again, like we always say, Bitcoin fixes this. This is the ironic part about this. Bitcoin fixes these things. And people, how does Bitcoin? Bitcoin fixes this because you fix the money. Fixing the money fixes the world. That's how you start healing the world, is by fixing the money. When you have an unlimited currency printing machine, your computer or the old currency printing machine, literally, you can just siphon everyone's wealth away and then use it for whatever you want. Use it for this narrative, use it for that war, use it for that project, pay off that guy. Doesn't matter. With Bitcoin, you can't do that. You cannot do that. The system starts healing itself and it becomes merit-based, and accountability and responsibility goes up. That's the beauty of it, a deflationary system instead of the inflationary system that we've lived in the last 100+ years. No one knows anything different other than inflation. Well, we need 2% inflation. I need to steal 2% of your assets every year. Now, with Bitcoin, it's opposite. Now your wealth goes up, your purchasing power goes up every year, and governments are restricted by the rules, the code of Bitcoin, and then the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. It's a perfect trifecta. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.